What happens when the oldest literature meets the newest technology? Can AI recreate the voices of the ancients? Not just mimic their words, but sing them in pastures new. Can we train AIs to question as Socrates, deduce as Aristotle, or declaim as a Greek chorus? Those are some of the questions we wanted to answer when we built an open AI workspace, Muse. Today, we'll share what we learned from these experiments. The talk will have 3 parts. First, our workspace. What it does, how we made it, where it might end up.
Second, we'll walk through a single experiment, reconstructing scenes from the lost Homeric Cupria.
Third, what this means for how we learn about the past, whether on our own or with teachers. Muse began as an effort to recreate Homer. We were inspired by a striking similarity between Homeric poetry and generative AI. Both use phrase-generating formulae. The bard and the bot don't author work so much as perform within a tradition. The parallel, noted by one of the organizers of this conference, Richard Cole, spurred us to build from his trials. We made one key assumption. Using AI to reproduce Homeric poetry would require modeling the constraints of Homeric composition. Asking AI to write new content would mean asking it to do what Homeric poets themselves did not do. They did not create poems from scratch, weaving substance from ideals of style. Instead, they stitched material from extant folktale and myth. Our AI had to do the same.
So we built a GPT workspace to mimic that process. For our proof of concept exercise, we chose the Cupria, a lost epic from the Homeric cycle, whose plot we know from synopses in Proclus and Apollodorus. We used 3 methods to restrict the expressive domain.
First, hand-curated uploads of textual knowledge. We fed each custom GPT the words of a single ancient author or genre. We identified what Homeric scholars call type scenes, standardized episodes containing a high proportion of formulaic language. These are blocks of phrase and rhythm that bards used like Legos. Using the translations of Richard Lattimore, we focused on supplications and feasts, 2 scene types especially dense with formulae. Second, data structuring. We broke the scenes into parts, action by action. For supplications, that meant the approach, the gesture, the plea, and the response. Then we filled the categories with example text from dozens of Homeric instances. This created a scene template, a spreadsheet of tradition, and gave the AI a narrative grammar to model. Third and most crucially, we cut off our Homer GPT from the internet. Here we follow the lead of Jared DeForest at Ohio State, who found that pruned AI models outperform wild ones. We built Muse around this idea of disciplined limitation. We decided to blind the GPT like an oracle in solitude. If we left it stranded in a room with just the ancients, would it take up their voices like a child left alone with an echo?
Once our GPT was ready to go, we ran 3 test rounds. First, we asked the Muse to sing of Iphigenia supplicating her father Agamemnon. The result was not convincingly Homeric, but the AI improved through training and produced lines such as,
"Sing, O Muse, of Iphigenia's plea to her father. On the 12th day after the seer spoke, as dawn cast long shadows on the sands, where the Achaeans' ships waited in rows to sail toward the towers of Ilium."
But the process was hit or miss. The AI correctly used epithets like swift-footed Achilles or rosy-fingered Dawn, but kept trying to use the character's eyes as a way to convey emotion. Archaic poets didn't do eyes that way. This had to be unlearned. The second round, using enhanced data structuring, generated a feast-type scene that was judged passively Homeric. In this round, we used a wider range of source text, generating a larger Homeric language model. This time, our Homer GPT produced a credible pastiche.
They kindled fires with dry wood split by bronze, bright flames leaping, and the scent of roasting meats filled the hall. A handmaid brought water for washing, in a fine golden pitcher, pouring above a silver basin so hands were cleansed and pure.
Overall, the results seemed to approach the adequately Homeric. In the third round, we tested Muse against OpenAI's untrained default GPT-4. We wanted to determine whether our customizations of the AI model produced a more Homeric output than the unmodified version. We asked an Oxford Classics fellow to judge. Our bot won. For example, when asked to generate a description of Helen of Troy, Muse produced these lines.
"Sing, O Muse of Helen, fairest of mortals. Golden-haired with gleaming eyes, graceful as the swaying willow she walked, beloved by gods and men, the cause of great wars."
In contrast, the untrained AI tended toward vague and abstract phrases. Instead of the image of the swaying willow, for instance, ChatGPT gave us beauty unmatched and beguiling.
From the results of these 3 rounds, we drew some preliminary conclusions. Muse provides proof of concept that AI, when guided by detailed human inputs, can generate quasi-Homeric poetry.
Challenges remain, however, in maintaining creative fidelity and eliminating non-Homeric language. In most cases, once the scene templates are populated, the AI can be trained with simple user prompts. The task then is all the time and effort required to line up the right Homeric lines in the right narrative places.
This templating is a lot of work, and it can't be automated. Not yet, and maybe not ever, especially if we want to generate quality content, not just perform a digital parlor trick. An AI can emulate ancient styles better than we can, on our own, but it might take us 20 times longer to produce something twice as good. It's scene building, line testing, variant choosing. A line from version 27 and then another line from version 31. We don't write Homer this way, so much as curate him. Beyond proving that it can be done, we must have some reason for putting in all this time. In an educational context, learning might be reason enough. In education, the labor itself teaches, and what we've learned at Muse has some implications, we think, for teaching and learning the ancient world. After creating our Homer GPT, we went on to create more than 100 other custom chatbots, from Socrates and Ovid to Beowulf. Each can retrieve and revoice the past through direct user engagement. We've experimented with some creative applications, such as asking Socrates to write an op-ed about a current news event, which taught us about the current events and about Socrates. And we've turned Aristotle's rhetoric into a GPT to help first-generation college applicants outline their personal essays, showing how these new tools can engage communities underserved by traditional classics. We've also had some instructive failure. Our Gregory Nagy chatbot, built upon the open access work of a major contemporary classicist, cannot, alas, be prevented from hallucinating quotes and fabricating sources. It's an important reminder that as powerful as these tools are, they cannot tell true from false or good from bad. Only humans can do that, and getting us to think more deeply and sharply about what is good or bad, or right or wrong, is perhaps the ultimate way these ChatGPT models can help us to teach and learn. Looking further into the future, one transformational use of these GPTs may well be their elevation of pastiche to a fine art. By pastiche, we mean an artistic work in the style of another work, artist, or era. It's been said that the Beatles' White Album, for instance, is mostly pastiche. It's been widely noted, too, that the ancients, in their intertextuality, lacked our conception of the individual author. Postmodernists have meanwhile announced the death of that same individual author in our own day. Pastiche by AI, creating fresh things based on all things, may be the defining medium of this new old moment. All of these findings highlight the importance of human involvement in AI. In Muse terms, you have to know what is Homeric, and you must grow and prune the model like a gardener. In T.S. Eliot's terms, tradition cannot be inherited or merely generated, and if you want it, you must obtain it by great labor, indeed a ridiculous amount of erudition. As Eliot wrote of the poet Swinburne, he mastered his tradition, which is a great deal, but he did not master it to the extent of being able to take liberties with it, which is everything. The Beatles, by contrast, are considered to have so mastered their medium that in taking liberties they improved what they imitated.
So we face a kind of chicken and egg problem here. AI can help us learn about the ancient world, but to use it well, we need to know something already. These tools can help us move from novice to intermediate, or from intermediate to fluent, but not from nothing to something. There are some exceptions to this rule. One useful exercise is to present students with two versions of a poem or a passage, one the original and the other generated or rewritten with advanced technology. Students pick which they prefer and say why. No prior knowledge is needed. This is useful because it challenges readers to justify and articulate their own readings and preferences. It's also the kind of exercise that can be used to learn about more recent authors, and it can be scaled to larger educational settings.
But overall, voicing the ancients through GPTs seems best suited for small group or individual study, not for cavernous lecture halls with distracted TAs. In any case, to really get the magic of this technology requires careful attention to the needs of human users. Developing a feel for this scene between automation and artistry is important if AI is to mean, as Richard Cole hopes, a humanities-led approach to the digital, rather than a triumph of data over the arts. What is a humanities-led approach to the digital? Here, as elsewhere, we can do worse than to take a clue from Socrates.
A text dies if we can't engage with it, and that's why, as he drinks the hemlock, Socrates tells his friends, "Don't feel sorry for me. Cry only if the word dies on us."
Using AI to revoice the ancient is, we think, one more way of keeping the word alive. It's the latest way, but surely not the last way, in which classics is intergenerational intercultural, and best of all, potentially eternal.